There's a fascinating phenomena going on in the United States right now. You know, at the extreme end of despair, you see, for example, the Palestinians in Gaza, who are, you know, hey, we've been living in a prison camp for years and years. We have no jobs. The septic systems don't work. The water systems don't work. The hospitals are understaffed. The stores are half empty. There's you know, massive unemployment. And if we go up near the wall or near the fence to protest, they shoot at us. By the way, I heard somebody this morning on one of the television networks saying, well, yeah, any country in the world, if you had people coming up to their fence like that, would shoot at them. I suspect that if Donald Trump had ordered the Border Patrol to shoot through the fence at that caravan from South Mexico, from Central America, to shoot at those people, there would be hell to pay in the United States. But anyhow, I heard that argument being made, but I don't buy it. But in any case, that's one extreme end of hey, to paraphrase Bob Dylan, when you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. The other extreme end is, the United States in the 1950s. And things were going well. There was not much protest. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, there wasn't any protest. People had jobs. The economy was growing. Unionization was hitting 30%. You could go to college for free on the GI Bill. You could get federal subsidies for your house. Doctors made house calls. It cost $300 to go to the hospital and have a baby. I mean, there was a time in the United States when life was good, at least for white people. And for some people of color as well, but mostly, we were still an apartheid country. But still, there was a time in this country when, broadly speaking, things were not insanely terrible. So you've got that spectrum, or let's say that the other end of the spectrum would be Denmark, or Norway, or Sweden, or France, where basically people are not protesting, people are not upset. And in between, let's say Denmark, the happiest country in the world, and Gaza, probably the most miserable place in the world, in between those two is us. And this study just came out from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. They insure 106 million people, which should give you pause. But, shouldn't the government be doing that? But anyhow, between 2013 and 2016, in a 3-year period, major depression cases skyrocketed. The jump is reportedly even more serious among children and young adults, with depression diagnoses rising 47% in millennials, 63% in adolescents. This is somewhere between a 47 and a 63% increase in major depression among our young people. Now, no doubt some small part of that is attributable to discussion of depression, online discussions of depression, education about depression, people seeking medication, pharmaceutical companies advertising on television and saying, hey, are you depressed? We can make you happy. Stuff like that. Some of those things are driving it, but I suspect that there's much more to it than just that. And I'm curious your thoughts on what you think would be contributing to this too. This study by the CBS station in Chicago suggests, and they're quoting Dr. Karen Haywood, who says increased use of electronics, video games more commonly in boys, and social media and texting more commonly in girls can lead to increased conflict both within the home and among peers. High users of social media have been linked to higher rates of social isolation than low users. So she's suggesting that it's basically our phones and our computers. But I think it's a lot more than that, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. And I'm not looking for stories of depression. What I'm looking for is your opinion on why are people depressed? And let me give you some possible answers, some brainstorming that I did on, what could be behind this. Among this generation, we have massive student debt, and among the younger people, the prospect of massive student debt. If you go to college, which everybody wants to do, or not everybody, but many people want to do, you go to college, by the time you graduate, you're going to have to spend the first 30, 40 years of your life just paying off your student debt. Because the for-profit college industry and the for-profit banking industry and the politicians they own who changed the bankruptcy bill in 2005, they all got together and said, let's screw young people and make the banksters rich and make the billionaires, the DeVosses of the world, who support or own for-profit charter schools and private schools. Let's make them rich. So is it student debt? Is it global warming? I talked to some young people a couple of weeks ago. I was down in Los Angeles and hanging out with some friends of mine, and they had some kids. And one of their kids was saying to me words to the effect of, we all know that by the time we're your age, this world is going to be in a whole world of hurt. There's going to be millions of refugees. There's probably going to be worldwide war. And large parts of the United States may not even be habitable. We all know this. So is it climate change that's causing depression? Is it the corruption of politics, what I was talking about in the last hour? The fact that the Donald Trump administration and the Republican Party in general are so corrupt. And there's parts of the Democratic Party that are corrupt as well. You've got Democrats who are absolutely just as much as Republicans in the pockets of big insurance companies, big bank companies, big oil companies, big gun manufacturers, you name it. Now, it's a small percentage of Democrats, and it's 100% of the Republicans, but it's there. And it's all brought to you, by the way, courtesy of a group of Republicans, or Republican appointees, 100% of them Republican appointees on the U.S. Supreme Court, as I mentioned in the last hour. 13 out of the last 17 Supreme Court appointees were appointed by Republicans. And if they can't do it honestly, they do it dishonestly, the way Mitch McConnell prevented President Barack Obama from having his appointee, Merrick Garland, on the Supreme Court for almost a full year. So is it the corruption of government, the feeling, as Gillens and Page pointed out in this Northwestern University study back from about 3 years ago, we had them on this program talking about it, that if you're in the top 1%, your political priorities actually get enacted into legislation. If you're in the top 10%, your political priorities, you got about a 60% chance of them getting enacted into legislation. If you're in the bottom 90%, your political priorities are completely irrelevant. The probability of them being enacted into legislation are statistically identical to random noise. There is no measurable relationship between what the bottom 90% of Americans want and what Congress actually does. So is that what's causing depression? Is it that our society has become, and has been becoming since the 70s and 80s, really, with the rise of Ayn Rand libertarianism, objectivism, the whole Libertarian Party, the Rand Paul phenomena, all this stuff, has become basically more vicious, more cutthroat, less compassionate, less concerned for people, more concerned for billionaires. That our political discourse and our ongoing discussion is becoming more libertarian. Is that causing children to be depressed, and young people, and adults for that matter? Is it the school shootings? The fact that they know that every day that they go to school could be the last day on earth. I mean, I grew up in a world where that never even occurred to me. I mean, we were worried about the Soviet Union launching missiles, but we didn't even take all that seriously. Is it all the guns? Is it the rise of right-wing hate? Is it that white people are beginning to learn what people of color have known forever in this country, which is you can't even walk down the damn street without having your life at risk. You can't go buy a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea like Trayvon Martin did without ending up dead before you get home. You can't have a taillight out like Sandra Bland did. You can't sell loose cigarettes on the street. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. We've got, like Eric Garner, we've got this long list. I mean, you can't barbecue at like the family did in Oakland. And of course, for centuries, people of color have had good and solid and legitimate reasons to experience depression or rage or PTSD and the whole spectrum of stuff. But is it possible that as young people, as white young people are becoming friends with people of color, that they're beginning to empathize with them? And that is now smearing across our political dialogue. Is it the right-wing hate? Is it the fact that right-wingers now are responsible for more deaths in the United States, more murders, more political terrorist murders in the United States than even so-called Muslim terrorists? Is it that? Is it that the right-wingers, that if you're gay or if you have friends who are gay, now we're in a world, look at how fast gay marriage was ratified. We're in a world now where young gay people and young trans people are not afraid to come out. And so, is it that they're identifying with their friends? That's why they're depressed? What's going on here? Is it the rise of right-wing hate that's causing this depression? And by the way, all of these things that I just shared with you, from the student debt to the global warming to the corruption of politics to the more libertarian, less compassion, to school shootings, to the rise of guns, the rise of right-wing hate, all of these things brought to you courtesy of the Republican Party. So is it the Republican Party and so-called conservative right-wing hate politics that is causing this explosion of depression? Or is it something completely different from that? Something I'm completely missing because I'm so blinded by being a lefty.